Hello, alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Cern. Welcome to the Pick Six, the podcast by the Attractions Group, where we bring you the latest stories from the attractions and amusement industry.
Well, before we dive into this week's Pick Six, let me remind our listeners where they can tune in to the Attractions Group podcast. You can catch us on your favorite podcast apps. We're talking about like Apple, Spotify, Google, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like, share, and let your fellow enthusiasts know how to find us. Ryan, what's story number one?
Story number one, we're going to start off with a really obscure one that nobody's talking about. Top Thrill 2. That was sarcasm, people. So Cedar Point announced Friday on social media that Top Thrill 2 will not reopen for the 2024 season. The Sandusky, Ohio amusement park said that the roller coaster's manufacturers, Zamperla, will not be able to complete the modifications needed to reopen in 2024. One of the most anticipated rides for this year only operated for 8 days before closing on May 12th. Once we got past about the 4th of July, I kind of saw this coming, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I did too. And I wrote an article last week, a few days before they announced that, you saw a lot of the enthusiasts and the Cedar Point fans, hope had kind of been abandoned that it was going to open up again this year. So it was good to see that there's some clarity to it. I understand all the disappointment that a lot of, thrill seekers, coaster enthusiasts, have had this year with it not running, or, they went there hoping to have it running and it wasn't. But this is a prototype ride. It's unfortunate it happened, but this gives them plenty of time, to resolve the issues. You got several months here before the park opens up again in May of 2025, but to just get it right. And those 8 days that it was open, we saw nothing but rave reviews about this.
Yeah, people were surprised by elements that they didn't think would matter, like the backward launch. So that's definitely, we can only speculate as to what the extent of the problems are. Obviously, they singled out the lightning trains from Zamperla, and Zamperla has done a lot to modify those, but the things you can see from the visual eye. But there was also lots of photo and video that went around of people inspecting track with black lights. I'm not exactly sure. I assume that that's checking for fractures and stuff, which could just be like routine, like they would be doing that now anyway, or it could be indicative of a bigger problem. So a lot to be seen. So I actually reached out to our friend Ryan, the ride mechanic, and I was like, there's a lot more on Top Thrill 2 we'd like to hear your opinion on, but he hasn't done another episode on it yet. But
no, we'll get him back on the show soon. But moving on, a new haunted maze is coming to Knott's Scary Farm. It mashes up two very different fears into a nightmare scenario, combining web-spinning spiders and dying women living out their final days in a decaying nursing home. Knott's Scary Farm 2024. It's going to feature 10 haunted mazes, 5 scare zones, and 4 live shows on select nights beginning September 19th all the way to November 2nd at the Southern California theme park. And when you talk about Knott's Scary Farm, this is the granddaddy of all the Halloween events.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people, and granted, this is West Coast people, so they're comparing it to Hollywood, but a lot of people have said like it's kind of either or as far as what's better, this or Halloween Horror Nights. What's really weird is this is obviously under the same umbrella as let's go with Cedar Fair rather than Six Flags as a whole. And we just did an episode on how Kings Island's event is so stale, but Knott's Scary Farm event is always being reinvented and always new, and it just shows you the level of talent that they have out of that park.
Oh yeah, and a lot of the scare actors that they have, they're professional people. We're talking, it's not the high school and the college age kids for the most part. You've got a lot of people that they have these professional jobs, but they love the Halloween season, and they come back year after year to do this event.
Yep. Next up, Carowinds is set to light up the night with its Summer Blast fireworks show on Saturday, August 31st at 9:30 p.m., capping off the Labor Day weekend with a stunning display. The 17-minute spectacle will be synchronized to a musical score featuring artists from the star-studded Carowinds Summer Music Fest, amplified by Coke Studio. The show will dazzle with a variety of shells and effects in different colors and shapes, including 5 shell sizes ranging from 2.5 to 5 inches, offering a high-flying, multi-sensory experience. Over 700 shells will be launched from 102 racks positioned behind Hurler, Carowinds' iconic wooden coaster. The Summer Blast fireworks show promises a memorable finale to the summer as guests reflect on moments from the Carowinds Summer Music Festival at the nation's only amusement park that spans 2 states. While the fireworks can be enjoyed throughout the park's 400 acres, recommended viewing spots include Carolina Boardwalk, County Fair, and Celebration Plaza. Now, do you want my analysis as I guess I'll call myself a former pyrotechnician assistant? Because
Yes, I do.
I can decode what this says. So 5 inches is the biggest shell that they have at Kings Island for their nightly show too. So that's not a particularly big shell. 2.5 is really small. That's like, like when your sports team hits a home run, and I mean, for us, it's the Reds, and they have those fireworks that are outside. Those are 2.5 inches. So just real pops. 700 shots is actually a pretty relatively decent show. I don't know why it's talking about the racks, because the number of racks is dependent on the size of the shells, because obviously, there's less tubes in a 5-inch rack than there is in a 2.5-inch rack, but still a fun fact. But I do like the idea of using this summer celebration stuff, the Summerfest, because they were able to pull that off, and it seems like they were able to have a successful event. And I'm glad that they were able to look back and celebrate it with this.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the things they did this summer. A number of people that's their home park, and they feel that it's been one of the best years that they've ever experienced and enjoyed at Carowinds. So it's great to see, this is what they're going to do to wrap up the summer season. And then they got the Halloween event coming up. Carowinds, they do a fantastic job with that. So, if you get an opportunity over the next few weeks, get out to Carowinds. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Yeah. Next up.
Well, the first ride that I ever experienced at Busch Gardens, Tampa, is about to take its final bow. After more than 44 years of delivering thrills, Scorpion, one of the park's iconic roller coasters, is going to be retired on Labor Day. Busch Gardens Tampa Bay recently announced the closure on its social media channels. They're inviting fans to take one last ride before the coaster's final run. The Scorpion, a beloved fixture of Busch Gardens since its debut in 1980, is one of only 3 remaining roller coasters of its kind in the world, soon to only be 2. Manufactured by Anton Schwarzkopf and designed by Werner Stengel, this Silver Arrow model has left an indelible mark on coaster enthusiasts with its tight 360-degree loop and dizzying speeds up to 41 miles per hour. The ride's compact yet intense layout has made it a fan favorite for decades, offering a bite-sized thrill that's packed with punch. You always hate to see rides retired, especially with those that have had such a long run. 44 years for a steel coaster is a very long time. But for me, the memory is it's the first ride I ever rode at Busch Gardens, Tampa.
See, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I went to Busch Gardens, Tampa last year, and I had forgotten that this ride existed. Now, I do remember the ride being a pleasurable ride. Like, it was fun, because you see something like this and you assume it's going to be jerky or uncomfortable or whatever. And I don't remember it being that way, but I'm sure this ride meant a lot to a lot of people. So it's always very touchy when a ride's being removed, because we talked about this. It's somebody's favorite ride. It's somebody's last ride that they rode with their dad before he died, or something like that. So handle it with grace. 1980 to now is a great run, like you mentioned. But they already did mention in the announcement that they're making way for something new. So hopefully it's something exciting that's going.
Yeah, future park expansion there. But for me, it would be one of those. If I went there today for my first time ever at Busch Gardens, it would not be the first ride I'd go to. I mean, there's just so many other things there now that grabs your attention, and this kind of flies under the radar. But back in 1996, when I visited for the first time, it was the first ride that I went to, and there weren't as many coasters there at that time. And it was, like I said, it was tight, it was intense, fun, thrilling at the same time, memorable. So for me, it's always going to have that spot in my heart, because it was the first ride that I rode at that park.
I think mine was Gwazi, believe it or not. you know. All right. Enough about me. So Cedar Point is bringing back its beloved Happy Friars Fresh Cut Fries Fest, running from September 6th to the 8th. Since 1942, Cedar Point's original fresh cut fries have been a must-have for visitors around the Midwest, and this year's event will feature 4 all-new recipes for guests to enjoy. At Happy Friar, located near Gemini, guests will indulge in the 5 alarm fresh cut fries topped with spicy chili, ghost pepper cheese, and habanero pepper, or try the pierogi fresh cut fries loaded with mini pierogi, sauerkraut, and Thousand Island dressing. Over at Hot Potato near Raptor, the menu will include Nashville hot fresh cut fries featuring grilled Nashville hot chicken, cheese sauce, and pickles, as well as chicken parmesan fresh cut fries. That's where I would be, the chicken parmesan, with grilled chicken, tomato sauce, mozzarella, and parmesan cheese. These 4 limited time flavors will join classic favorites like buffalo, garlic parmesan, original, chili and cheese fresh cut fries throughout the weekend. A Happy Friar Fest, the lovable fry mascot of the Gemini Midway, will make appearances for selfies and family photos, inviting everyone to sample Cedar Point's delicious, not necessarily famous because they're new, limited time offerings. I do like their fresh cut fries there. I really do.
They have really good ones. If you were to make a top 5 list of fresh cut fries in the industry, Cedar Point makes that list. You mentioned the one that you'd be about. I think the Nashville hot fresh cut fries. That would be the one I think I would opt for. But I would try the one that you like too, with the chicken parmesan ones.
So in a lab setting, I would probably go for the Nashville hot. But all I'm thinking of is, do I really want to eat something hot after walking around Cedar Point when it's 150 degrees out?
It kind of magically cools down right after Labor Day. So this is September 6th.
Well, it is Sandusky.
I don't think it's going to be 100 degrees for you. But no, I mean, this is always, I think this looks like a fantastic event. It's one of those, because it's got such a short run. September 6th to the 8th. You have to mark your calendars. There's that urgency to get there for it, so it's not spread out. So, I like what they're doing there, and it looks delicious.
Cool. Next up,
Great Escape was recently rated as the top value among the Six Flags properties in North America by the software firm QR Code Generator Pro SL. The firm did a data analysis of ticket prices, operating hours, number of attractions, the cost of food and parking, the crowd sizes, and wait times of rides, and assigned a score out of 100 points to each of the parks. The Great Escape was ranked at number 1 with 63.23 points. La Ronde, a Six Flags amusement park in Montreal, was ranked second with 60.69 points. Third place was Six Flags Over Georgia with 59.32 points. Six Flags, as we know, owns many amusement parks now around the U.S. and Canada, including Darien Lake in Western New York, Knott's Berry Farm, Southern California. You got Six Flags Great Adventure, New Jersey, Cedar Point and Kings Island, Ohio. So it's a really good honor for Six Flags Great Escape to win this award. I was there earlier this summer. I had a great time. Very efficient with their operations. So yeah, I can see why they grabbed this honor.
Very cool. Yeah. As we're reading this, I'm like, so a QR code generator is approving of Six Flags. Go you. But yeah, it is very interesting to break it down. Some of it, like sentiment, obviously doesn't take into account, because from what I understand, La Ronde is one of the parks that needs a lot of work. So that being ranked number 2 is rather interesting. But it'd be interesting to know more about their algorithm. But Great Escape, you always talk about it being a hidden gem and stuff. Here's some pretty good evidence of that,
Yeah, it is.
Cool. All right. Let's move on to the listener questions. First listener question, George P. from Chattanooga, Tennessee, said the Tennessee Tornado doesn't get enough love. I think it's the best roller coaster at Dollywood. Where does it rank in your list of roller coasters at Dollywood?
I enjoy it. I think it's a fun ride. It's not my, favorite there. It wouldn't be number 1 on my list, but, it's a ride that when I'm at Dollywood, I certainly want to get at least one ride on it. What about you, Ryan?
I rank it third. I had time to think about that while you were talking. My favorite ride there is Mystery Mine, but no, now they got Big Bear Mountain in the mix. Okay, let's act like
Yeah.
Big Bear doesn't exist. I don't want to mess up the formula. Mystery Mine, and then Lightning Rod, and then that one. Thing I like about it is it's an aero coaster, but it's not your quintessential headbanging kind of situation, kind of like Loch Ness Monster. Where it's really fun to ride and really good sensations, and you can tell that the ride operates exactly like it's supposed to. Not
Right.
too rough or jerky or anything like that.
No, I mean it's fun. Like for me, I got Thunderhead. I will put Big Bear Mountain on my list. You got Lightning Rod. Those are going to be, ahead of it for me.
Thunderhead is temperamental being a wooden coaster. There are some times when I ride that and I'm like, that's better than the Voyage. And there are other times when I ride that and like, I'm never riding that again. Recently it's been really good. It went through a rough spout for a while back in 6-7 years ago, but I think they've retracked the entire thing since then.
And the most underrated coaster for me there is Blazing Fury.
Oh, I love that. I don't think of that as a coaster though. I think of that as a
No,
dark.
no, but they classify it. I mean, it's on their list as a coaster, but
Yeah, yeah. I
I
think
love
that's
that
fair.
ride. I think Wild Eagle. We're talking about wing coasters. I enjoy that. It's a beautiful setting that they have there in the mountains with that. You mentioned Mystery Mine. I mean, you how can you not, go to Dollywood and not ride that? I mean, that's a fantastic ride.
It's got a
Lightning
lot of
Rod.
haters.
Yeah, Lightning Rod.
Oh yeah, what can you say?
I've ridden it a lot this year, and every time I ride it, it just becomes another ride that I just like more and more every time. So yeah, I mean they got a lot of great coasters there at Dollywood. You can't go wrong with any of them.
Yeah. Next listener question. Phyllis W. from Bridgeport, Connecticut. What are your thoughts on Rye Playland in Rye, New York? I'm going to defer this to you. I've never been.
Well, I mean it's been a long time since I've been there. In fact, it'll be 40 years. This summer I was there in 1984. Small traditional park. I remember. For me it was the type of food you would expect to have at the traditional parks, like the old Cincinnati Coney Island days. There was obviously the cotton candy was really good. The carousel, I enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean it was a fun park. It's not something, again, it's been 40 years since I've been there, so it's not something that it was on my bucket list to do every single year. But I would like to get back there. I thought about it when I was in New York this summer, but didn't have enough days. I was only there for 4 or 5 days in New York. But if I had more time, I certainly would have tried to find a way to do it. I love those small, parks like that. I think it was 1928. I'm thinking when it opened, so it's almost 100 years old. It was one of the parks that I worried about during the pandemic. You wondered how many parks were going to make it through. So it was on my mind in 2000 and 2021, or 2020 and 2021. So yeah, I mean it's a fun park. I hope to get back there again.
Cool. Yeah, I hope to make it out there someday. All right. Make sure you follow us on all your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify. We're now available on YouTube Music, apparently.
That's big.
Hit that subscribe. YouTube, it is huge, and it's like a big it's a big downside that we weren't available in the first place. A big oversight by me. Make sure you hit subscribe button on visual YouTube and hit that like button and follow us on X at attractions_GRP. No episode next week. We forgot to mention that in the AGP. No episode next week because I'll be out of town, but we'll be back in 2 weeks with another exciting episode of the Attractions Group podcast.